Good evening. Normally you would see me on the weekends, but I decided to change things a little bit. On occasion, I will be doing weekly looks at the news headlines and what the country's talking about from a segment called In My View. This week started off a sad week. A week after we had mourned those who had lost their lives at 9/11, we started on Monday with a gruesome shooting of 12 people, including a gunman, at DC Naval Yard in the nation's capital on Monday. As to what motive this man had remains to be seen. But this man, 34 years old from Fort Worth, Texas, had issues with the law and also some mental emotional issues. He was a former Navy man, and he contracted for the Navy on a few occasions for a few projects on the said base where the shooting took place. Now remember, we all still remember and still feel the after effects of what happened in Sandy Hook last year of December 2012. And at that time, it reignited an emotional debate on gun control and gun violence and possible effect on violent video games. And there were bills going around and none of them passed. Most of them failed because of gun lobbyists, NRA, etc. And also infringing on their Second Amendment rights. We'll talk about that in a second or two. Well, how do you get a gun on this site? Most weapons are allowed unless he had access to a weapon, which he did. And he was reported to have angered few black guys, according to some friends, and had obsession with violent video games, according to another. Well, there is a debate between the effect of violence and the effect of violent video games. I, for one, play violent video games, but I don't act on the violence from the video games. I vent my own violence onto the video game, and I feel better. I know the difference between fantasy and reality. But there are some people, such as the shooter and also other shooters of mass shootings in recent history, can't make the difference between fantasy and reality, and they sometimes converge and confuse the two, indicating possible mental illness, depression, whatever. And makes you wonder, did they have access to good care? Did their family know about it? Did they keep it to themselves? Only the persons involved know. Now, let's talk about the Second Amendment. As quoted by the Constitution, the Second Amendment says, quote, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state and the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." What does that mean? A well-regulated militia. Now, according to Wikipedia, this is what a militia means. A militia generally refers to an army people, or other fighting force that is composed of non-professional fighters, citizens of a nation, or subjects of a nation or government that can be called upon to enter a combat situation, as opposed to professional fighting force of regular soldiers who are historically members of fighting nobility. Some may include to protect the community, territory, property, and laws, town, state, country, etc. Now, how do you regulate militia? Laws, bylaws, ordinances, whatever. But how do you keep the rights of the people away from the infringement of the government to take away your guns? Well, we all know NRA is the gatekeeper of the Second Amendment right. Well, they need to understand that good people do not prevent crimes, because that doesn't really happen. And they need to understand the effects of mentally ill people with the hands of semi-automatic fire weapons usually used in military, hunting, whatever. Personally, for me, I have a mental illness, depression, and also attention deficit disorder. Reason why I don't use guns, because my aim's bad. I can't aim for the life of me. I can't point a gun for the life of me. But still, I have a mental illness, and I don't know how I'll feel if I hold a gun. I might feel powerful, unstoppable, unable to control myself, or possibly my anger. But the NRA needs to understand one thing. What in the hell are you thinking? Yes, that amendment is there to protect us from government infringement, but also government needs to stop those who are mentally ill or have emotional issues of psychiatric history to prevent access to semi-automatic weapons usually used in military, etc. But my heart goes out to the shooter's family and to the victims affected. Let's hope. Let's discuss how to treat those who have mental illnesses, and also to prevent those with mental illnesses access to guns. It's not going to infringe upon their rights, but to make this country safer. And only the good guys, hopefully our politicians or lawmakers, will be able to prevent another senseless act of violence. Think upon that this week, and I'll see you this weekend for a look on the news and upcoming announcements soon involving AR 2.0. Have a good night, America.